Hello everyone, I am Dr. Neelmani Jaysawal, Assistant Professor from Visva Bharati University. I am going to present the paper here titled Impact of Urban Development on Biodiversity, a Review. So I'll begin the paper with the introduction. Urbanization is a terminology which is referred to as the demographic processes through which the cities are expanding. It involves the shift in population from rural to urban areas. In its economic attribute, urbanization is considered to be a situation where more than three-fourths of the total population is engaged in non-agricultural activities. The Planning Commission of the Government of India estimates that about 40% of the country's population will be residing in the urban areas by 2030. The accelerated urban growth presents several difficult challenges for the natural environment in Indian cities. Increasing pollution of water and air degrades ecosystems. The biodiversity has a very negative correlation with urbanization. As urban centers grow, the existing biodiversity of the area diminishes. On one hand, urbanization is considered to be a focal point of development. On the other, it is contributing to the climate change and upheaval in biodiversity. The outbreak of mushrooming urbanization keeps coastal cities and towns in peril through destroying sensitive habitats like mangroves, sea turtle nesting beaches. So now we have to see the impact of urban development on biodiversity. Urbanization generates significant stress on land cover, native habitats, biodiversity, ecological commons, and the ecosystem services which underpin the human well-being. The transformation of urban space puts vulnerability for surrounding species. The urban growth in India is often nucleated with newly urbanized land, usually seen in a tight band around the older parts of the city. The United Nations predict that by 2031, 15% of the urban population of the world, nearly 600 million people, will be living in the Indian cities. So we can see that how the urban development in India is mushrooming at a very faster pace, which is also having the probability to deteriorate our ecosystem. So now we have to see that in what way this urban development is going to affect our biodiversity. So there are certain measures which I have highlighted. Number one is the destruction of habitat. As the urban space grows, the natural habitat of the species shrink. Various research studies have pointed out that the richness and abundance of native species, including plants, mammals, insects, amphibians, diminishes in response to the urban development. One of the finest examples of destruction of habitat in India may be witnessed through human-elephant conflicts in Annamalai, Periyar, and Agasthamalai landscapes of Coimbatore districts of Tamil Nadu. Various human activities like subsurface coal mining in the buffer areas of Naukrek Biosphere Reserve of Garo Hills and shifting cultivation causes the extensive degradation of the forest, which support a wide variety of successful communities ranging from open forests to abandoned shifting cultivation fields. So, of the 370 butterfly species available in the Western Ghats, it has been estimated nearly 70 are at the brink of extinction. The next impact is the biotic homogenization. Biotic homogenization refers to the replacement of regional native species with non-native invasive and cosmopolitan species. Many studies have shown that the extirpation of the native species in urban environment and the influx of non-native invasive species is leading to the global biotic homogenization. So by using an urbanization gradient, we find that the bird species richness was negatively affected by the urbanization. Large species were mostly restricted to the rural forest, and in some cases, the industrial zones, and these hardly ever occurred in the more urbanized area. So the species vary widely in their ability to adapt to the drastic physical changes along the urban-rural gradient. The next impact is the land use change. The growing urban centers are very much detrimental for appropriate and regulated land use. The urbanization becomes very much synonymous with the frequent land use changes which create a lot of negative externality. In one of the studies by Venkatesh Datta in Lucknow, it is disseminated that unregulated urban development in India has altered the land use pattern in order to suit its growing population. So it conducted the study in Lucknow in UP, which showcased the unprecedented growth of urban landscape degrading natural resources. Even in southern part of Lucknow-Kanpur route, it has been displayed that the marked decrease in the wasteland at the rate of 5.59% and the cropland at the rate of 8.08% has been witnessed with a simultaneous increase in the area under construction, which is peaked at 7.51%, indicating an increased rate of future urbanization in the respective city. The another impact is the changes in the water and nutrient availability. The fast urban space is also shrinking the water resources and its nutrient availability. The unexpected population growth is degrading the water quality and misbalancing its nutrient value. The generation of runoff from the urban surfaces can carry a suite of the contaminants, including heavy metals and major nutrients, litter and rubber residues from the roads. So, in developing countries, contaminants are very much pumped directly into the water from industry, agriculture, and untreated domestic wastewater, where limited access to the widespread sanitation and poor regulatory policies have contributed to significant degradation of the aquatic bodies. So, the development of urban park results in an artificial soil representative of the important material, which is mixed and compacted during construction, as well as mechanically altered soils with disparate pore structures. Next impact is the threat to the birds. The impact of urbanization is also perceivable through its negative effect on the bird species. The habitat loss through the intensification of urbanization or urban sprawl has been proven problematic for the species with sedentary habits or limited vigility. The birds perceive humans as a threat, and this threat is something which the human birds need to handle. Urban birds need to handle since they interact and are exposed to the humans constantly. So the negative externality of urbanization like noise pollution, light pollution, air pollution also affects the species of the birds, and anthropogenic noise pollution refers to the altered acoustic environment of the cities and transportation networks. So the birds usually exhibit lower species richness and evenness in urban regions compared to more natural areas. And the last impact is the fragmentation of the forest. The forest fragmentation has serious consequences on the overall health of the forest ecosystem through disruption of the continuity of the landscape. The Western Ghats has nearly 1.66% of the forested area under high fragmentation, mainly due to the extensive cash crop, plantation, and developmental activity. In the Andaman and Nicobar Island, 0.94% of the forests which fall within the high fragmentation areas consist mainly of various natural creeks and water bodies which fragment the natural vegetation on the coast. So the larger tracts of the forests are also converted to agricultural land for monoculture plantations of tea, coffee, rubber, oil palm, teak, eucalyptus and wattle. So over 20% of the original forest cover remains more or less in pristine condition, and the remaining is subject to the varying degrees of human pressure, including collection of fuel wood and non-timber forest produce for the subsistence. So to conclude, we can say that the growth of urban areas has led to consumption of natural resources, ecosystem change, and loss of habitat. A number of studies across the globe have termed urban areas as centers of environmental degradation. Biodiversity, which contributes to human security, resilience, health, and freedom of choice and actions. The impact of urbanization on this biodiversity is very much evident through numerous studies across India. Out of 175 million hectares degraded land, 141.3 million hectares land suffers from water and soil erosion. Another 8.5 million hectares of land is waterlogged, and the remaining 25.2 million hectares of land is degraded due to alkalinity, acidity, salinity, and shifting cultivation in India. So in that way, we can see that how the urban development, which is mushrooming in our country, is having impact not only on land, not only on water, but also on all the aspects of ecosystem, ranging from the forest cover to existence of various species, birds, and many other things. So in that way, it is having a lot of detrimental effect on our habitat and on our biodiversity, which need to be responded by our citizens and the government immediately, so that our ecosystem could exist in conformity with the development of the place and development of the communities. So our economic development, social development should not hamper the ecological development in our earth, in our planet. So this is the summary of my presentation. Thank you very much for your patient listening to my presentation.